Over the last week or so I've been stuck for parts for jobs to come in. Something's happening, you know, we are getting parts here shortly, so it's all going to be crazy all at once. Anyway, as you know, I've been scrapping and melting aluminium down, and I was going to throw this in the melt. It's a vacuum pump off a 300 TDI. We all know these, they're quite common, and there's lots of common faults. Principally, they don't really fail from producing vacuum, that's okay. They'll still produce vacuum, but the problem is they leak out of these core plugs here. I should really look at the lens, should look at the camera. This one's been leaking, the paint's actually disappeared off this core plug. And this one looks to be okay, but under here you can probably see where it's all wet, and this has been leaking oil. So I'm going to try and fix it, but the problem is you can't buy parts for them. There aren't any parts that exist. So I'm going to take it to bits and see what happens. You know, it's purely experimental and, you know, theoretical, but we probably can reseal this gasket here because we can't buy it, so we'll have to put some sealer in and put some rivets in. But how it works principally, there's a big spring in here that's held in with some collets here at the bottom. Now these are pretty tricky to get out. What we have to do is compress this piston in the press and try and undo these two little grub screws. There's one here and one here to get this out, to get that released, and so we can get to the collets underneath. Tricky, and like I say, because we can't buy the parts, what we're bothering with. But basically what happens is this pipe here goes to your brake booster or your servo and sucks air in, and the excess air from your brake booster comes out this little hole here and into your crankcases, and then from your crankcases it gets sort of sucked into your air intake. That's the theory. One of the common problems while I'm at it with TDIs, the 300 TDI in particular, had very bad servos, and so what that meant was the servo used to crack where the bolts were for the when the brake master cylinder bolted onto the servo. There was little hairline cracks used to appear in the sheet steel where it was pressed out of, you know, the servo body itself. And the problem with that was it was so damn thin you couldn't weld it, you couldn't do anything with it. And what people used to find out was that the brakes were not only very poor, but the car was smoking sometimes quite a bit more than usual. The reason, they had back pressure in the crankcases, and the reason was this pump's working overtime, sucking air out from atmosphere and blowing it through the crankcases. At the meantime, it's not holding vacuum, and that's kind of tricky. So the two problems go hand in hand. It's not a very good idea, but probably didn't really think it through. So let's have a look. Now, first of all, what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this piece out here. I was thinking about taking the rivets out first, but I don't know. I don't want to damage the face by putting it on the press, so I might put this on a block of wood and just press this piece out so we can get these little grub screws out. Let me go and set this up in the press. What I've done to set this up, I've used two wedges to get this parallel, you know, slide them in and out so it gets a nice height. I've also grabbed hold of my metric Allen key. I think, well, I can't remember what size that is, something. Anyway, you'll find it out. I can't read, I've used these so much it's all worn off. Right, so I'm going to press this down. We'll see what happens. Right, let's take these grub screws out of here. So there's one either side. Not sure if you have to take them out completely. I took one apart a long time ago and realised I couldn't do anything with it. Let's take that one out. I'll put that in my pocket so I can lose it better. Oh, that's tight. Can't really get into it very well. Oh, there's some tension on that. I wonder why that is. Maybe it's too much tension on that. The other side. Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Let's back it up. Oh, boy. That's tight. I'm going to get a little ratchet key and see if I can get that out. Well, there was nothing much to worry about. It was just either a bit of Loctite or a bit of corrosion on there. Probably Loctite. Well, let's get that out. Keep coming. They are quite long. Yeah, you probably see there was a bit of that focus. Probably not. Bit of Loctite on it. So now let's back that off. See what happens. Nothing. Might have to get something to pry that out with. So using just a little punch, that cap can come out now. Now let's let some pressure off. That's that. I'm always sort of wary about springs and things like that. How the hell does that come out? Somebody at home would be saying, oh, you do it like this, mate. I don't know. It's tipped over a little bit at an angle. I think I'll retire to the vise and let's see what happens. Well, I found out that if you put 2 screwdrivers in here and lever it up, it'll come out. There's no spring pressure on that there, so that's something less to worry about. So what have we found? Well, we've got a piston that moves up and down, held in by a little circlip. Nothing wrong with that. Our big problem is in here. You can see in there's some collets holding this valve in with this rod, and the collets are exactly the same as the cylinder head idea. So what we've got to do somehow is push this down, keep this shaft in the middle solid, push the spring down and get the collets out. And this is one of the reasons why I don't sort of mess about with them too much. I've got to think of a way to do that. Now my concern now is, do I do it with this cap off? For the simple reason, am I going to damage anything inside? I don't know. Like I say, it's been donkey's years since I took one of these apart. So what I'll do is I'll take it to the vise and we'll drill out those rivets and we'll take the cover off. So I drilled the rivet heads off, and then using a punch, the right way around, and punch these out. That's them out. Oh, that came off. You can see inside here that there's a sort of a moulded, an O-ring type of affair. Like I say, I haven't actually seen these O-rings, but somebody did say they exist. But it doesn't look damaged in any way. And I think with a bit of sealer we'll get that to work. Now the valves here are going to prove a little bit difficult. This one here is almost half out. If you can see, there's a little star washer type thing, an not an anti-shake thing, but it binds in. I can't think of the word this morning because it's 6 o'clock in the morning. But you push it in one way and it won't come out. And the same for the bottom. The problem is, it's the bottom one I want to get out. Anyway, this is why it's tricky. So there's your piston. Let's get a bit of paper towel and let's have a look at this. I think. Oh no. No. Wait a minute. Look at this here. I've just spotted this. Wait a minute. Let me get some brake cleaner. So what did I see? Around the top, this is the actual way it goes onto the vehicle. This is the top. Notice how the rubber seal round here is kind of even, but look at it at the bottom. You see how it's kicked over? Could this be the problem why it was getting oil in it? You know, like it was leaking. I've got a sneaking feeling that that's the answer here. But let's try and get this piston out. Now we've got nothing to lose at all, because now we get into the realms of it's more than leaking. Oil's getting in here somehow. I know a lot of people put, you know, new seals in and things like that, but if that seal's gone, I'm not sure if we can replace it. And it looks a real special one. So what I'm going to try and do is put this in the drill press and try and get out that collet. I'm not looking forward to that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a socket or a tube under here to build up that space, so that when I'm pushing down here, I'm not losing space by pushing out. So that knobbly bit comes level, and you can see here it's inset. It's inside here, so we're going to lose a few half a centimetre by pushing it down. So we want as much space in there as we can get. Let me set up the drill press and see what we can do. I'm not sure if this is going to come out very good on the camera, but I've got my I made a little fork here. It goes into the drill chuck. Let's turn it up a bit so you can see it like that. Look, so it's all it is a bit of box channel welded onto a piece of bar, which will go and push the cap down of the spring, and underneath here I've just got myself a 30mm socket. So let's press it down. Now also I've got a little magnet here. There we go. Ooh, this is going to be tricky. I'll get them out, but I don't know if I'm going to get them back in again. Magnet's worse than useless. Wait a minute, see if I can... Does this magnet actually work? Does it magnet? Right. The problem is everything's on one side. So these, there's one. I'll turn this around a bit while keeping a little bit of pressure so it doesn't go boing. There she goes. Right, so I've got the collets out. I'll try not to drop them on the floor like that. And let's release the pressure. Whoa, that is a big boingy. In fact, I'll have to let the table down. Just let me pick up that collet while I think on. So there's the little collets that hold it in. Right, let's have a look. Tell you what, let's go to the bench where we've got more room. So here we are back on the bench. I've got the collets down here, and we'll take that spring off. That is a whopper. You don't want that to come off and go in your eye, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to put it in the press in the first place, because I wasn't sure if the collets, when I took out that ring, it took this piece out. Anyway, that is a big spring. What else is in there? Nothing. So there's the piston. Let's clean it up. You see, can you see here, right at the bottom, this is knackered, look. You see how it's come away? This is actually sort of glued on, and this has come away. So I was right to replace it, because I thought it was just by fixing the, you know, putting some seal around here and putting the rivets back on, that would sort it out. But sadly enough, this is toast. I'm just going to hold it here and hope you can see what I mean. This was at the bottom, and it's knackered. Look at that. I wonder if we could take it off. I mean, obviously they've manufactured these. Oh no, that's bonded on. That's bonded onto there. But like I said, this seal's been going backwards and forwards, like this, and that's what's been causing the oil pumping. What they should have done. Wait a minute. Let's have a little chat. This is the daftest idea I've ever seen for a vacuum pump. The 2.5s and the 200 TDIs had a vane pump in place of where the distributor pump used to go, or the actual distributor on a petrol engine, and that worked fine. There was nothing wrong with that. I don't know why they changed it. I don't know why they changed it. There was no real need. But a better system would have been to put the vacuum pump on the back of the alternator, like the Isuzu and like a lot of Japanese cars. They just put a little vacuum pump on the back, and there's an oil feed that comes round and from your engine. It's no big deal, doesn't give any trouble. These are always giving trouble. So sadly there's not much we can do with that. There's not much we can do with that at all. And like I said, now we've got the diaphragm out, or the piston, should I say. We can see in here there's the other set of non-return valves. So you've got a set in here and a set in there. Sadly, if you can't buy the parts, well, I mean, I know they're expensive. But what else can you do but put another one on? You know. So there we go. A failure. Making this Land Rover better? No. So it's going to go back into the scrap bin, but I thought we'd take it apart and just have a look and see, on the slightest remotest chance that we could actually fix it. If that piston was okay, if the valves were fine, then yes, we could have a go at resealing it. But in this instance, no. So if you've got one of these pumps, if you take the cap off, you see any damage to this, like, what would you call it? A piston ring, piston seal? Forget it. Alright, so I hope you like that. Making this Land Rover better? No, sorry. Not in this instance. I've got to raid the piggy bank and get another one. Alright? And the thing is, oh, wait a minute, just before, there is no other alternative to do this. Now you might be thinking, oh, but why don't you put a vacuum pump on the back of the alternator, like put a Japanese alternator on, which is a lot better, by the way. The exhaust pipe gets in the way, and I guess that's why they didn't do it. You know, they could have done so many things, but they didn't. They had this idea that this Wabco pump was working well. But the thing is, I've never seen that system on any other Land Rover. I've never seen it anywhere else. It seems just unique to 300 TDIs. Anyway, now we're going to go. Talk to you later and see you in the next video. Bye.